First Lady of Sports, and you just finished listening to Uncut Uncensored. They always have great shows, and I like listening in all the time. So, welcome to Her in the Huddle. We're going to be talking some sports here. Brandy's going to be joining us shortly. So, you got me for right now. No Eddie in today. Obviously, we're going to miss Eddie, but happy to have Brandy in with us. But, let's start off talking some NBA Finals. So, pretty much what I thought was going to happen pretty much happened. And well, I was a little off. I posted on Facebook that it was going to be a sweep, and then 3 hours later, Miami won the second game too. So it was a gentleman's sweep. So I was pretty much very close to my prediction. So it was pretty much a sweep, kind of. Miami came into Denver and did the thing and got a pretty big victory in game two. I thought that, okay, well, maybe they'll be able to do something from here on out. And it just didn't happen. Unfortunately, Denver was just too much for Miami, but Miami, did a great job. And I look at it like Miami has nothing to be ashamed of. I don't know if you guys remember the exchange between Giannis Antetokounmpo and the reporter, in which the reporter asked him, did they fail? Did Milwaukee fail because they failed to advance out of the first round? And, Giannis gave a great speech about failure and how them not winning wasn't a failure and it's definitely steps to success, which is a great quote for life lessons as well. So, not just sports, but in life as well. You never fail, it's just steps to success. And I look at it like Miami didn't fail, it was steps to success for them. They came in as an eighth seed and with a long shot to make it out of the first round of the playoffs, but they did that. They made it out of the second round, they made it out of the third round, and they made it to the finals. But unfortunately, they were not able to win, but I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it, they came against a Denver team that was just loaded. They came against one of the best players where he didn't win the MVP this year, but he's a two-time former MVP, double in a row, Nikolai Jokic. And, unfortunately, not really able to stop him and the supporting cast, Jamal Murray, and all those other players that Denver has. But, they were just a good team, very boring to watch. I did my best to try to stay engaged last night in the game, and I was rooting for Denver because I wanted Denver to win because they've never had a title or anything like that, and I kind of equate Denver with being like the Cleveland Cavaliers, and not having a title. Obviously, Denver doesn't have the history that the Cavaliers has. We're making it to the finals multiple times and things of that nature and not winning. But Denver, made it and they won. So like I said, I kind of equate them. So I'm happy for them. I didn't, as soon as the game was over, I kind of cut the game off because, I didn't want to watch a boring celebration for Denver because they had just been boring all year long and I just was kind of over them. So, but a little part of me was wanting Miami to win to make it interesting. I wanted this to go to 7 games. I wanted this to go to at least 6 games as possible if you couldn't get to 7. I wanted some excitement. I wanted to see what Eric Spoelstra could do. So far he's had a successful career, and that's something that we're going to get into a little bit later. But I wanted to see if he could will his team back in this series. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen. I think Jimmy Butler got tired. There was a lot that was on him. He had to help with Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero never came into the series, which, is okay. Duncan Robinson came in his place. And it just wasn't enough for Denver and what Denver could do on the basketball court. So at the end of the day, this season is over. It's a wrap. I never thought Denver was actually going to win, based on the beginning of the season. I never saw it coming, but, it is what it is. And now everybody is back to the drawing board because basketball will be back before you know it. So we are just here in June, but in October, you have training camp and things like that opening. So then you got the summer league coming up and stuff like that. So you're never truly without basketball per se. But the season, the 2022-23 season is officially over with your Denver Nuggets being your 2023 NBA champions. So congrats to Denver. But, I look at this as we move forward with basketball. I'm wondering if other people enjoyed this series as well. I didn't really enjoy it per se. I knew it was going to be kind of boring, but if you're out there listening, I hope you enjoyed the series. I think the NBA probably didn't want Denver in there. They wanted a different team, so to go against Miami for a little bit of sizzle. But as we've been saying before, Denver is just a good team. They're a good team that was fundamentally sound. So sometimes people don't want to see the fundamentals. They want to see flash, pop. They want to see dunks and excitement and stuff like that. And, yeah, Jokic is a great player, but he's just kind of, boring, kind of a little bit Tim Duncanish, the big fundamental, not too much, excitement surrounding that. So I think people were looking for just a little bit more excitement in the finals and stuff like that. I think Denver fans are very excited about what happened, but I think the rest of us are just kind of like, I could have had a V8 on that one. So, the NBA is a great product. It puts out a great product, but sometimes that product is a little ho hum. But, hats off to Denver for everything that they did. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was, hats off to Miami as well for making it to the finals. Everything that they had to go through, the Cavs pretty much had a very successful record against them this season. I think maybe 3-1, possibly they split with them. But who could ever say that they ever thought that Miami was going to make it to the NBA Finals coming in at the AC? Normally, historically, I think it's only been done one time before, and I think that was done by the New York Knicks. And it was just kind of amazing to watch. And I rooted for Miami in every series. Their first series, not so much. I was just like, okay, whatever. Well, no, I did root for them. Excuse me. I did root for them against the Milwaukee Bucks. So I like the Milwaukee Bucks, but obviously I don't want them beating the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is if they had been able to get past Miami, they would have faced the Cleveland Cavaliers. If the Cavs had been able to get past the Knicks, they would have faced the Cavaliers. So that didn't happen though. And I wanted it to happen. I didn't want to face Milwaukee. Obviously, I thought that facing the Heat was going to be a lot easier to do, but we never got there because we couldn't get past the New York Knicks. So, but Miami came in that first seed, and they did what they needed to do. They beat Miami. They beat Milwaukee 4-1. And Milwaukee, one of the things that they had was injuries to Giannis and Antetokounmpo, and that's something that obviously as Giannis goes, the team goes, and without him, Miami just bulldozed over the Bucks, and they were able to beat the Bucks at home. And I think so many people were surprised that happened. I mean, it shocked the basketball world, obviously. So they were able to beat the Bucks 4-1. And pretty much it was between Boston and the Bucks pretty much all season for the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. And they went back and forth with Milwaukee finally becoming the number one seed with more wins. For a long time it was Boston, but then the Bucks beat out Boston. And then so the eighth seed obviously gets to face the number one seed. So they came in and did what they needed to do against the Milwaukee Bucks, winning on the road and things like that, which is uber important. And then they took it to the Knicks. The Knicks had beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 4-1. Unfortunately, the Cavs didn't put up much of a fight, and that's why the Heat is where they were at last night. But they went ahead and took it to the New York Knicks, and I think they won maybe 4-1 or 4-2. I don't even know if the Knicks won 2 games. I had to think about that. So they were able to handle that. They were able to handle the bright lights of Madison Square Garden, where the Cleveland Cavaliers were not able to handle that. So they were able to handle that. They were able to beat the New York Knicks at home, something that the Cleveland Cavaliers struggled to do. And then they moved on. And then they moved on to the Boston Celtics. So I don't care what you say. The Miami Heat need to be respected because they kind of went through a gauntlet. Then they faced the Boston Celtics, and they went up on the Boston Celtics 3-1. And Jaylen Brown told the media, "Don't let us get one game." So I think that they wanted, I think that they probably pretty much wanted to be swept more than likely. But then, Boston came back and they stormed back and they won 3 games in a row. Excuse me. They won 3 games in a row and forced a game seven. Those are two words that everybody loves to hear in sports is game seven. So they forced a game seven between with Boston and they came out on top. So they did that thing. They did what they needed to do and they made it to the NBA finals. So I think that the series against Boston was the better series. It was the most exciting series. Excuse me. It was the most exciting series that I think of all the maybe I would say the Sacramento Golden State series was kind of maybe the best, possible probably. But you had Miami come out there and pretty much put their foot on Boston's throat initially, and then Boston came storming back, doing what Boston was going to do because hey, nobody wants to get swept, and they won a few games and pushed it to game seven. But they kind of got beat really badly in game seven at home, and the Miami Heat came in there probably feeling so disrespected because nobody expected them to win a series. They came in at the eighth seed, and Miami really had nothing to lose. So they came in there and did what they needed to do, and they advanced to the NBA Finals. So hats off to Miami. One of the things that wanted to look at was Eric Spoelstra and how great of a coach is he able to be. He has a couple titles under his belt with the team that comprised of LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, he was able to win a couple titles. He was able to take Miami to the championship in the bubble. They didn't win. So with Miami, this is the second time they've been to the finals within 4 years. So that's a great accomplishment for a team that doesn't have LeBron James anymore, but getting to those finals. So, do you look at Eric Spoelstra and the top tier coaches in this league? He pretty much started off as a video coordinator with the Miami Heat, so he's worked his way up through the organization to a championship coach. And when his team hasn't been able to win the title, he's still been there. So, is he somebody that you would consider a great coach? And I think I would consider him, I wouldn't say the greatest, but I think that he's a great coach and what he was able to do with this team throughout the course of the season. And Miami came in a very pedestrian record. Like I said, they were the eighth team in the final, they were the eighth team. They didn't have to play any playing games or anything like that, but they were ranked eighth. And they came in, and it's just an amazing story. And how much would you say Eric Spoelstra had to do with that? He had a lot to do with it as a head coach. He's came up through the system. He knows his team very well. Pat Riley equips him with the players that he needs to try to win games, and that's what exactly the Heat way, where they surround themselves with quality players and have productive outputs. And that's exactly what they did in this series. So I'm really surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised because Miami is still a great team. They weren't able to win the title, but they were able to slay everybody that came in front of them. And, I'm a huge fan of Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, as they like to say. I love him. I wanted to see success for him. I wanted to see individual success, but I still wanted to go with Denver because Miami already has some titles. So that's the way I look at it. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU at 95.9 FM. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Her and the Huddle, WOVU 95.9 FM. And remember, you can always keep it locked here at your regular radio dial at 95.9 FM. You can always listen to us online at WOVU.org. You can always download that WOVU app so you can listen to us on the go. And always contact the stations with any questions, comments, or concerns at 216 271 0959. You can call us at any time 24/7. So welcome back. And we were just talking some basketball. Now we're going to talk about some of the things that the Cleveland Cavaliers need to do in order to get back to the playoffs. So one of the things that they need to do is they need to find the number three. I'm sorry, as we talk about this on this show all the time, Isaac Okoro is just not getting the job done. Some people say he's getting his job done and he does his job when he's in there. And it's great for defense. I don't know how much of a defensive stalwart you can say he is. He wasn't able to stop. He was not able to stop. I want to say Jalen Brunson from the New York Knicks. So he wasn't able to stop him. And also, he really didn't contribute in any points. What the Cleveland Cavaliers had to do in that playoff series was change their starting lineup because they really get no points for him. So they had to start Karis LeVert in his place and take away from Karis LeVert coming off the bench when you already have a weak bench. So you took away from him being one of the strengths of the bench because your starting lineup isn't that great. Well, your starting lineup is great, but Isaac Okoro in the starting lineup is not a good thing. So that's what at the very beginning of the season that Karis LeVert was starting. So they called it the death lineup. So Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Karis LeVert was supposedly the Cleveland Cavaliers' death lineup. And then Karis LeVert moved to the bench, and Karis LeVert was okay with that move because it was where he was comfortable coming from. I guess he felt like he could impact the game in a certain way because I don't know why most players would go to the bench, but he felt like he could impact the game differently coming off the bench, which is fine. Also, the lack of the bench is one of the things that enabled us to be able to move further in the playoffs too. Besides tiring out Donovan Mitchell, and you gotta give the New York Knicks props for the defense that they played on Donovan Mitchell, effectively eliminating him from every game other than game two. So you have to look at it was masterful, and Donovan Mitchell said he missed a lot of shots, but also his shots was contested. Almost every shot he took was contested. Also, too, the Knicks had length that the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't have. We thought the Cleveland Cavaliers were tall, but they were out rebounded. They were out hustled. One of the comments was that they wanted it more than us. Why do they want it more than you? What are you doing out there if you don't want to win a title? So that kind of stunned me. But can the Cleveland Cavaliers do what Miami did and get to the finals at the way this roster is currently constructed? And I don't think so. I think you have to do something with Isaac Okoro. It's just because you're getting 0 points for your number three. Isaac Okoro can be out there and play for 20 something minutes of the game, 20 plus minutes, and maybe give you 6 points. And he's a self check. Defenses are leaving him out there to take open shots because they're like, he's not going to make them. So they're not even checking him. So that enabled New York to double team Donovan Mitchell the whole game because they left Isaac Okoro by himself. And then when they leave Isaac Okoro by himself, he doesn't even make the shots. So that's another thing. So in order for the Cleveland Cavaliers to have that opportunity to advance, they're going to have to rework that lineup. They're going to have to address the problems on the bench. And Kobe is going to have to do something about that because they're not going to be able to pull a Miami Heat or anything like that. If anything, they probably could be ranked number 6 coming into the playoffs next season because I don't think that they're going to blow Boston up this year. I think that they're going to keep it as is and see what they can do with that tandem of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So I think that they're going to continue to see what they can do with that, if they can continue to build around that and build a championship team. I don't think that they're going to abandon that just yet. Obviously, with Milwaukee, has done number one in the Eastern Conference. Giannis isn't going anywhere. So, they're going to continue to focus and build that team around him. So you got them possibly being first or second coming into the next season. Then you got the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's always a problem with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But James Harden probably isn't going to be back with them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because I think James Harden had been a good piece for that team. But their playoff woes are something that, holds Philadelphia back. And Doc Rivers got fired once again because he couldn't advance out of the first round. So you kind of feel bad for them, because I feel like Philly is a team that's kind of loaded, but they're not able to do much with the talent that they have. And for whatever reason, they get outplayed. I don't necessarily know out coached, but it's not producing wins for them. Then you got the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were the fourth seed this year. But if they don't address certain things, that possibly could be very bad. So if they don't address the three, they don't address their bench, I could easily see the New York Knicks leapfrogging them and being the fifth seed, and maybe Miami being the possibly eighth seed. So, no, the sixth seed, I'm sorry, going in the next season if Miami isn't number one, possibly. So there's a lot that needs to be done for the Cleveland Cavaliers to get to the point in which Miami was able to. Um, you got to figure out how can you continue to develop and grow your bigs, because one of the issues in that series against the Knicks was rebounding. And it makes somebody say it makes you appreciate Tristan Thompson more, because a lot of his game, Tristan wasn't the best shooter, but he was an excellent rebounder. And that's something that you're missing excuse me, someone that's super hungry, that's going to clean up the boards and give everything that they have. And you didn't get that out of the Cavs in these playoffs. You got it out of the Knicks, where they rebounded, they got the ball back to the players, they tapped it out and stuff like that. And you just weren't seeing the Cavaliers do that. I mean, you were seeing the New York Knicks get 3-4 rebounds on the same possession. And, being in that audience in that press box, you just heard, you could just hear all the groans, because the Cleveland Cavaliers weren't getting it done on the boards. And that is so important, you're giving your offense second shot opportunities and things like that. There were barely any in that series. So two important things that they got to address, and Kobe has to get it done. I just don't see how this team is going to be able to advance any further out of the first round if they don't do it, because they've already shown that they're not on par with other teams. And they were supposed to beat the Knicks. They did not beat the Knicks. They couldn't perform on the road. And I believe that the Knicks won the season series 3-1 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. There was an important matchup towards the end of the season, one of the final games of the season. And then the Knicks just came out and just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it was really bad, because I'm like, this is a game right here that could be a preview to the playoffs. And Cleveland just stunk it up. One of the things that they do is they let teams get out to big leads. So, they're sitting there clawing to get back in this whole game. And then they're super duper tired at the end. So they have nothing left. And that's kind of what happened against the New York Knicks time and time and again. They would allow the Knicks to build up these large leads, 10 plus leads and stuff like that. And then they had to come back and find their offense, and just, everything is relying on Donovan Mitchell, and Donovan Mitchell was not effective. He blames himself. And I truly don't blame Donovan Mitchell because of what happened. I'm just looking at it like, you're not going to be the double team. And that's just, statistically, it's just not happening. So it just wasn't going to work for them. So I'm not sure, why. Well, I mean, if you look at it, one of the things is it just, you don't have the players. And you have the players, but the players are just not effective. So that's one of the things that isn't working. I don't understand, for whatever reason, why they struggled against the Knicks. But if you look at it, they kind of fell into some traps all year long. And, they had a better record coming out. They had 51 wins, which is great. I did predict 50 wins, so I'm happy about that. But at the end of the day, this team wasn't a team that was ready for the playoffs. and it was part of the youth of the team. A lot of people's first experiences. Donovan Mitchell wasn't his first experience. He's had some games in the playoffs that have been excellent games, but this time around, he wasn't able to get the job done. But like I said, I look at the way that the defense, the way the New York Knicks played defense against them was quality, and you effectively took them out the game and challenged everyone else to beat you, and they couldn't do it. They could not do it. Darius Garland was a little cold in this series too, where you needed big games out of him and you didn't get it. You kind of got big games out of Evan Mobley. So he is one of the people who showed up and you got production for, but you didn't get those rebounds from him that you needed to be able to get. And you could see his youth and adolescence come through in these games as well. So a couple of different, reasons why, a couple different things, we can try to dissect this season and stuff like that. But we just know that in the off season, they have to work to get better. And it's been very quiet. But now since the NBA season is done completely, hopefully they can move some pieces and get some pieces back. They're the threes that are available. I'm not too smitten with them, but it is what it is, and we'll see what happens from there. But JB improved as a coach as well, so you got to give him his flowers for being able to get this team where he was able to get them. But obviously he has some improvement and growth to do because he got out coached in this New York Knicks series. So that's another thing that needs to be worked on with him, how to get this team back to the playoffs, how to get them a better seed, and how to get them to advance at the next level. That's one of the things that is the issue too coming out of this series, because they just looked woefully underprepared. And if they say that this team wanted it more, then that's also a coaching problem as well. But it's also internal problems with the Cleveland Cavaliers players as well, because I'm a former athlete as well, and I never, I wanted it more than anybody else. So I'm like, I know I wanted it more than the people on the other team, and I just don't understand how you could ever publicly admit that a team wanted it more than you. I will never get that. I will never understand that. But I look at it like, I guess, but that's not going to get you a title if another team wants it more than you. They admitted that the lights were too big for them at Madison Square Garden. I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? It's a road game. You've played there before. You've won games there before. So what do you mean the lights are too bright? But I guess, when it comes to playoffs, everything is a little different. It's another season. So I guess that's different. But at the end of the day, the Cleveland Cavaliers have to make some changes, and they have to make them now if they want to make it to where they want to go. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. We will be right back. All right. Welcome back to Her and Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports. And I am here with Brandy Fairfax. Hey, Brandy, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just got to plug my computer up right quick. Uh, all right. Welcome. Happy to have you. How's everything going?
Pretty good. Kind of sad basketball season's over with now, but football's coming up soon.
Yeah, and it'll be right here before you know it. We're going to get to some football, but we're going to talk Cleveland Guardians first before we get to that football because, not too much going on right now, but got some stuff going on. And Cleveland Guardians right now are trying to right the ship. They just came off of winning two series back to back, which is something that they really haven't been able to accomplish all season long. So they won a series against the vaunted, in air quotation marks, against the Boston Red Sox, and then they were able to win a series against the world champions, the Houston Astros. And excuse
Mm-hmm.
me, they hadn't beat the Houston Astros in the series since 2017. So I look at that as a good thing. On Sunday, you got a gem from Shane Bieber. He had 9 strikeouts, and the offense went to work. They blanked the Houston Astros. Josh Bell almost hit for the cycle. Jose did it. No, Jose had the Sunday off, so he was off that Sunday. But Josh Bell hit for the cycle to give this team some offense, and they were able to give Shane Bieber some cushion and some run support, something that they traditionally do not do. And they did have a one run win, so that's a good thing too. What are your thoughts about these two series that the Guardians just won?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's good. I think it's kind of, maybe the turning point of their season that we've been looking for. And, to be able to beat the Astros, they played pretty well against them. And then to be able to beat them, 5-0 and have them have no runs in that third game was good as well. But I am curious to see how they play in this upcoming series against the Padres since they have the same record as the Guardians right now. So it should be a good matchup.
Yeah, and they're on the road, and then after that, they face who do they face after the Padres?
The
Look at the
Diamondbacks.
schedule right quick. Okay, yeah, who they already faced at home this season, and I can't remember if they won that series or not. So it's another interesting series, going out west. Something that I like, this new schedule in which you play every team in the majors. How do you feel about that?
I like it. I think it gives teams also an idea of, what it will look like if they play these teams, later in the season and playoffs.
Yeah, especially the World Series too, because remember you didn't really face any National League teams until you got to the World Series, and I'm like, I hate that,
Right.
but I've always been a huge fan of interleague play because I just like facing different teams. Like, how many times
Yeah.
can you face the Detroit Tigers? Like I don't want to see them 50 times a season. So, I want to see a different team. So I've always been a huge fan of interleague play and playing teams that we've never seen before. One of the things I hate about the All Star, and we're going to talk about that in a second too, is that I did like that the All Star game you played for home field advantage
Yeah.
in the All Star game, and I kind of hate how they took that away because when the Cleveland Indians faced the Chicago Cubs, the American League had won the All Star game that year. So that's how we got home field advantage because Chicago actually had a better record than we did. So I kind of like that, but that's over. But, I'm just like, hey, you got to win out to get that home field advantage. So that's what you need to do. But, I'm super excited for this series that they have coming up against San Diego too. See Manny Machado, Juan Soto, and players from that super stacked San Diego team. To see,
Right.
I look at these as good gauges to see, how good this team is going to be. Can they really right the ship? I believe that they are 1 to 2 games out in the when the Central Division. I gotta check that too.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, 31 and 34, I believe.
Yeah. We're 31-34 and Minnesota's 33-33.
Okay, so 2 games out, so they can make that up with getting quality wins. I think that they can make that up. What about you?
I definitely think so. I think they're right there in these past 2 games. We've kind of, see them shift and are playing better as a whole. So hopefully, that stays that way. I think last year at the All-Star break, we were 46 and 44. So hopefully we'll get some more wins. There's a few more weeks until All-Star break, and then they'll kind of be in the same position as they were last year.
What do you think about Tristan McKenzie and his start on Saturday?
I think he played pretty well. I think, his first game back, he played well too. I thought they were going to lose that game, but, they were able to hold on and get that win. But happy to have him back. And I think some people were kind of worried of how he would play coming back from his injury, but I think he's done pretty well.
Yeah, he really didn't have it from the very beginning from one of the first pitches. So he did not look good on Saturday. He came out against the Minnesota Twins when he first came back from injury and was lights out, 10 strikeouts. He was able to, help us propel us to a win over the division leaders. So obviously, Twins, are still leading right now by 2 games. But that was important. That was a crucial matchup. That was a crucial series. Even though it really didn't cause any separation, that's okay. But I think, it's just coming back, things are coming down, not coming down to earth a little bit, but, getting back settled into his routine and stuff like that. It's hard because Tristan is such a solid guy. Obviously, he's coming back from injury and stuff like that. He isn't going to win every game, but he did not look great, and he admitted it. He wasn't hitting his locations and stuff like that. And he admitted that, he's being scouted better, and he's trying to adjust to that. So Tristan isn't catching anybody by surprise anymore. They're in depth field, they're in depth.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Film study is targeted towards him, Shane Bieber, and all those other players on all the other pitchers on the Cleveland Guardians. Not sure if you know, but Zach Plesac is like has an ERA of 7 something. So I doubt we're ever going to see him again, and he's down there in AAA. I think that it's just over for Zach Plesac in his career. I don't see him coming back to the Guardians ever again, and that's that.
I agree.
So, he had a quality year maybe 2 years ago, but ever since then, he's kind of been on the terrible side. So I think it's time for them to part ways. But, I fully expect Tristan to go back to Tristan form. Like I said, I'm not going to beat him up too much because he's just coming back from injury. And one of the things is he was accountable for the loss. And that's
Yeah.
something that you don't see too often, with players being accountable, like, yeah, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So that's something that you can appreciate from him. And that he's going to do everything in his power to get back and to be better than what he was before that last outing. So I'm excited for him coming back and seeing what he can do, how he can get this team back to the playoffs. And I think it was crucial because he was crucial. You had some players come up and perform and pitch and do pretty well in his absence, but they ain't Tristan McKenzie. So
Right. Definitely
dang
needed.
Tristan though. So, you got those kids, some opportunities and stuff like that. And they'll probably be called back up at certain times throughout the year. But now that you have Tristan back, you have Aaron Savali back. You have Cal is kind of like not performing well right now. So that's kind of an issue in the starting rotation. But if you can keep up this, getting quality pitching and getting quality starts from the players that you do have coming up, popping in every once in a while, I think that they'll be okay. So Josh and Jose, what are your thoughts about them?
Josh Bell.
No, Josh Naylor, excuse me, Josh and Jose.
Um, I don't know. I think they both performed better last year, I'd say, but I don't know. I think Jose, I think the past kind of last season and this season, I think a lot of people have expected more from him. I think when you look at the Guardians, I think most people see Jose as like the face of the team. So I think as the face of our team and supposed to be, the all-star on our team, I think he can be performing better.
Hmm. I think so too. And it just has taken them a while to get going. I think that there was a lot of expectations for this team coming into this season, but they're so young. Jose isn't really per se. Jose is pushing 30, but this team is being so young. That's a lot of pressure. Losing in the ALDS to the New York Yankees and taking them to Game 5, losing in the manner that you lost. But the excitement that followed the season, all the come from behind wins. Having the 14 rookies come up and perform at a high level for you, and being in the playoffs, winning division when people thought that you weren't going to. That's a high pressure situation and a lot to ask. So some of those rookies have come back to earth, and some of those rookies have been shipped out to other places, performing well. Will Benson is one that comes to mind. He's down in Cincinnati right now. Nolan Jones. A lot of people are talking about why do we let him go. You have some issues at catching right now, where last year you had Austin Hedges and you got good defense, but you got no offense from him. So now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well as Oscar Gonzalez, you look back at last year, he was a huge part of the team, and now he's down in AAA as well.
And he's struggling.
Right. Which
So,
sucks because I wanted to see him back, but
mm-hmm.
I'm not sure when that will be. But he definitely, gave them a spark last year, and when they were playing the Yankees, I think some of those games against the Yankees wouldn't have been as close if it wasn't for him.
That's very true. And, you want to see him here. You want to see him hitting well, but he just wasn't doing it. And, it's like you don't want him to be a one hit wonder. You want him to come and be very successful for this franchise. And, unfortunately, they say the sophomore slump. I try not to believe in those types of things, as
Right.
I look at it. Opportunity needs preparation, and he's here for this opportunity. He's prepared for it, and it should be given to him. But we all know that this is a results-based business, so unfortunately, they sent him back down, and hopefully, when he comes back, that he is hitting and doing all the things that he needs to. Will Brinson, in his place, is I think doing really well and helping the team out. But it's just something about Oscar for me.
I know the fans loved him. Everybody came in the SpongeBob gear.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I saw that guy down in opening day at Tower City. I took the Rapid down that day, and I think I saw him or whatever, but I didn't say nothing to him. But it was pretty cool, and yeah, it's a lot of excitement. He came and had some clutch plays, and he was just phenomenal. But I guess he's going through that sophomore slump, and hopefully when he's able to break it, he can get back up here. He can be on this roster, and he can contribute to this team. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle. On 95.9 FM. This is your girl Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Brandy Fairfax. And we were just talking a little bit of Guardians baseball, and I know Brandy is itching right now to talk some Cleveland Browns. She says she misses the Browns. I miss the Browns too, but the Browns will be back. Their first game isn't until September, but is mid June right now. So you got mid June, you got July, August, and September is here. So, the summertime passes fast anyway. So, I'm ready.
Right.
I'm excited. They're playing in the Hall of Fame game. So, you got the Browns a little bit earlier than what used to. So, Brandy, what are your thoughts about the Cleveland Browns right now? We're in this dormant period where we just had OTAs, but training camp is going to be happening very soon. We're kind of in this lull right now where nothing is really going on. But what do you think about this team as it is coming off OTAs?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of excitement for the year and I would say pressure for the team to, perform well. But, I am curious to see, what cuts are made, once it's camp time, who's going to be the second strings, especially like at the safety position and in the backfield like that. But I think, they're pretty good for the season. They did get some new pickups, so I am excited about that. But even just I think in the league in general, there are a lot of still free agents out there that I'm curious if the Browns are going to pick them up or if anyone who's going to pick them up.
What do you think about this DeAndre Hopkins situation? He's visiting New England soon, if not within the next couple of days. He just visited with the Tennessee Titans. So, what are your thoughts about this situation?
Yeah, I saw he's supposed to have a 2-day visit, I think, with New England. I don't know. I think New England and Tennessee, I wouldn't necessarily pick for teams for him to go to, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he'll land with either one of them, but I am curious. I'm sure there's going to be other teams in the next couple of days that want to schedule meetings with him, but it doesn't seem like people are too eager. So I am curious as to why.
What do you think about him and the Browns?
I honestly, there, was the rumor, because he played with Deshaun Watson and they played, well together. They were in Houston. So I'm sure he would be open, to coming to Cleveland to rejoin back with Deshaun. But I think he'd be good on the Browns. I think, having him as our top or second receiver with him and Amari Cooper, I think, would be great and really help out at receiver. And then having DPJ as the third option.
Well, if you don't get DeAndre Hopkins, how do you feel about DPJ being your number two?
Um, that tough, I think. I think last season we did see, sparks from him and I think improvement from year 4. But I don't know. I guess we'll see how like this training camp and preseason goes. But I'm not totally sure if he's ready to be that complete second option yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was saying the same thing. But if you can develop him some more, especially if he comes out of this training camp with having a good training camp, he could be. I think having DeAndre Hopkins would help. He had a lot of yards with Sean Watson. When they played together, he didn't have a lot of yards last year because I believe he was coming off injury. But he's had 1,400 yard seasons, over 1,000 yard seasons, and remember that one season when Deshaun lit it up for like 4,000 yards. That was one of his main targets. So I think it's important that the Browns address this wide receiver situation. They got a lot of wide receivers, but do they have a true number two to complement Amari Cooper? And the answer is no, not at this point, not at this time. So DeAndre is one of the best receivers to become available. They missed out on Julio Jones last year. I think Julio Jones could have been a good target for this team, or was it the year before? Because I think Julio decided to go to, I think he went to the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of, even though he came off injury and stuff like that, they kind of missed out on him, a good receiver. So, but I think they looked at his injury history. But when somebody comes up like this, I think that they need to go after him. So, it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how they're going to play this. But I think that they, because heck, he might even be your number one, and Amari Cooper be your number two.
Right. I thought of that too. Really, either of them could be the one or the two if you have both of
Yeah.
them.
So I'm just like, hold up, wait a minute. You got Amari Cooper, but DeAndre Hopkins is kind of good too. So yeah. But
Right. And you already there with him and Deshaun.
huh?
I said, and the chemistry's already there with him and Deshaun.
And that's the thing. So you would have thought that this would be a natural fit, and the Browns would be pulling all the stops out to try to get him. So I'm wondering if he's just trying to go out, see what other teams, and push up his market value, and try to pit teams against each other, and maybe he'll choose the Browns. But I'm hearing that he won't choose the Browns. But I'm like, why not? We're putting
Right.
ourselves in a position to win. We've revamped our defense, and hopefully, it'll translate on the field. We have went under. We've tried to remake our special teams, so all phases of the game, you got other offensive weapons now. I still think I was talking with somebody about this, whether or not they should go after Zeke for a second running back since they got rid of Kareem Hunt. So I kind of have been giving that some thought too, but they're trying to retool this offense. So I think he would make a perfect and natural addition to come in and play wide receiver for us.
Yeah, I like that. I would like Zeke too, being behind Nick Chubb. I also wonder where Dalvin Cook is going to end up now that Minnesota released him.
Yeah, but he gonna want to start somewhere. He ain't gonna want to be behind Nick Chubb.
Right. That's
I, I don't know about Zeke. I think Zeke might be okay at this point, but I figure he probably want to start too because he ain't even 30 yet, I don't think.
no, he's 28 in August.
Okay, yeah. So, I don't imagine him wanting to sit behind anybody. But, if you could have him and Nick Chubb for a 1-2 punch, I think that it could be phenomenal and help propel this team to the next level, especially if they could get Deshaun, as not Deshaun, excuse me, DeAndre as well. So we'll see. What do you think about that new Browns logo?
I like it. I think it looks pretty good. Like more upgraded than the one we had before, but I saw the fans and the players picked it. So I guess that is good. They got to be involved in picking it.
I'm not really a huge fan. I don't know because I'm just like a new logo. I'm like that kind of distracts from the fact that you're not winning. Like why now? Why the timing of this? Why not later? Like I think you need to focus on winning first and foremost instead of focusing on some doggone logos. So I'm
Mhm.
like, don't try to distract from the fact that you suck. So that's the aspect I don't like. It reminds me of Big Dog. I don't know if you know who that is. Big Dog used to be in the dog pound and he used to wear the dog mask. So that's kind of what that reminds me of is Big Dog. Rest in peace to Big Dog. But that's what that logo kind of remind me of. So depending on who picked it, if the people were a little older, they might have picked it based on Big Dog because he wore the dog mask. They would throw dog bones at players of other team, batteries and all that other stuff. So that dog pound wasn't the place that you really wanted to that you really wanted to you hated being on that side of the field, they said when you played there because you get so many three things thrown at you. Remember when Chad Ochocinco jumped into the dog pound
Oh yeah,
and people poured their drinks on him and stuff and they was like, how was it? He was like, it was cold.
he'll never.
Huh?
I said he'll never do that again.
Oh man, it was hilarious. But he said he was gonna do it. He told everybody I'm gonna jump in the dog pound if I get a touchdown, and he literally did it. And it was hilarious. So I thought that was really funny of him to do. But yeah, I'm just like logo schmogo. Let's actually win some games. So I got a phone call about it today. Like, did you see that logo? And I'm like, yeah, I saw it. I'm like, I'm not a fan, but like I said, I think you need to focus on winning more and go from there. If anything, it just don't matter to me. That's like kind of like the brownie elf that they had on the field last year, and I guess somebody hated so much they turfed it. So I think the focus needs to be on other things at this point. And still no announcements about how they plan to honor Jim Brown, and I think that that's something that they should have released last night with the logo as well.
Right, that's true. I didn't even think about that. They haven't announced that yet.
Yeah, we got a comment from George. George says, "Hey, ladies, hoping you're doing well. We just need to award the oldest trophy in professional sports, the Stanley Cup. It could happen tonight in Vegas. So we got like 2 minutes left. What are your thoughts about the Stanley Cup Finals going on between with Las Vegas and I forgot who they were playing against. Stanley Cup Finals."
Yeah, I don't follow hockey too much either. Let's see. Oh, they're
Uh
playing
the,
Panthers.
yeah, Carolina Panthers.
I did see,
Florida Panthers, excuse
yeah,
me.
I did see this girl on Twitter. She works in sports. She was at the finals game yesterday, and then she flew to Vegas for the hockey championship. So she's like, I wonder if I'll see two championships back to back nights.
Oh, really? That would be awesome. That would be dope. She's living the dream right there.
Right.
1 minute left. What are your thoughts about the finals? Did everything happen the way you expected it to?
Yeah, I did expect Denver to win. I did think Miami would pull out that game though yesterday and make it to game 6, but I think if they had Tyler Hero, it would have helped them if he was able to play the whole series.
hmm Yeah, well, I thought it was a boring finals. I didn't even watch the championship celebration because I figured that would be boring too. So I turned.
Right. I there. Jokic didn't really seem too excited. He kept saying he wanted to go home and play with his stuff.
Because he's boring. That's why I'm like, oh my God, you should be happy you won. All right, Brandy, we are out of here. You're listening to Her in a Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. Thank you to Brandy for the First Lady. For Brandy, we are out of here.